Hi guys, and welcome to my top 10 romances of the year. So I read usually between 80 to 100 romances every single year, and then maybe like 50 other books or ish that are in other genres, but I love romance. So to make it to the top 10 to beat out 70 books is pretty impressive. These are not my best overall books. That is the next video coming out in Bookmas, the 12th day of Bookmas. But here we go. Let's get started on my top 10 romance books of the year. Number 10 is Love Her or Lose Her by Tessa Bailey. This was a new release this year. It hit my new release best books of the year as well. Absolutely adored it. It's about a guy who got home from the military but didn't come home all the way and just doesn't support his wife, and a girl who's a caterer. Absolutely adored this book. It is since number 2 in the Hot and Hammered series by Tessa Bailey. Loved it. It's like a reuniting, coming together. Great couple who've been together for a long time, which you think that might be boring, but it's so good. You know, re-falling in love. So, book number 10, Love Her or Lose Her by Tessa Bailey. Book number 9, I should just go get this from my friend who I loaned it out to, is Wild at Heart. So I'll put it over here. It is The Simple Wilds, K.A. Tucker's number 2. Absolutely adored it. This is also a continuation of a romance story, and this is like working out through like the beginning part of romance, is working out of those kings. And yeah, it's about a girl who goes to Alaska. She wants to get to know her father because he is dying, and then she meets a guy, and so Wild at Heart is the continuation of her and that guy's relationship and what the future holds, because she is a city girl at heart, not a bare woods Alaska, and she's got to find herself there, or find herself in the relationship, or decide what they're going to do. So it is so good. There's a lot of kinks to work out. Absolutely adored it. Absolutely love this couple, and can't wait for the new one next year. So book number 9 is Wild at Heart by K.A. Tucker. This one was so hard to pick, but book number 8 was Grin and Bearded by Penny Reid. This is a Winston Brothers novel. I chose this one because I think it is my favorite of all the Winston Brothers, but I loved Penny Reid this year, so she had to make the list, but choosing one and putting it on the list somewhere, that was a really hard decision, but it came in as book number 8. I absolutely adore these novels. Highly suggest. They're easy to binge read. They're really fun. I found them on Hogle, so you don't have to like wait. You can just check them out and check them out and check them out. I read these. I read all the knitting series. Just absolutely adored them. This one is about a brother who like meets a celebrity wife. She's like a comedy actress and she's hilarious, but he's got like a tough background, so doesn't want like her to like image to be ruined. They're just funny comedy, super easy books to read. Absolutely love them. Every brother has a beard. They live in this small town. Love it. Just like gold right there. 7 was Remember Me by Sophie Kinsella. I went on a bit of a Sophie Kinsella splurge earlier this year. Love her. It's such an easy, it's always guaranteed like the same kind of, sometimes you love them a little more, sometimes you just like them, but just Sophie Kinsella, so good. So Remember Me is about a girl who completely forgets, and reminds me of The Vow. But I think even though The Vow is a true story, I feel like the story's told better. It's like more drawn out, and it's more like struggling through the relationship to remember things. I absolutely adored it and loved it. Definitely check it out if you haven't checked out this one from Sophie Kinsella. This is coming in at book number 7. It was so good. Number 6 is Recipe for Persuasion by Sonali. This came out on my top of 2020, and this is where I'm saying like it may not be the top on another list, because this is not my favorite romantic couple or romance, but I just love the book so much overall. That's how it made it to the top of my 2020 new releases books. But as far as romance, they're not my favorite couple, but absolutely adored this book. Absolutely loved it. Obviously, it was a number 1 pick from 2020 new releases this year for me. Overall, I absolutely adored this book. Love this book. Ate it up. There was nothing I hated about it or didn't like about it. It was just so wonderful. But it's the retelling of Jane Austen's Persuasion. She does a really good job, and it's like an Indian-based in California modern retelling of it, and it is so good. Definitely check it out. Even if you're not a Jane Austen fan, just read these ones. They're really good. The first one is Pride and Prejudice and Other Flavors, and then Recipe for Persuasion and The Sense and Sensibility comes out in June. So book number 6, Recipe for Persuasion, Sonali. Another great romantic couple. Number 5 is also Out Alone, but it is this tiny book right here, So Get a Life, Chloe Brown, which I'll put up here. I also read Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert this year. Absolutely adored both of them and loved them, but Get a Life, Chloe Brown, definitely I loved a lot more. It is about a girl who has a chronic illness and she has a lot of internalized pain, and she makes this list to like get a life. Like there's only so much she can do, like fitness wise and exercise wise. So when she's on this walk, she almost gets killed, and that's when she writes her list. So she writes this list. There's this guy who's like a janitor there who she keeps running into, and you get to see from his perspective, he's totally into her the whole time. She's not, but absolutely adored it. It's a comedy. It's so fast. It's so easy, even though it's taking serious stuff. Just perfect. That is probably the best comedy romance I read, I believe. Don't get me off. This is book number 4. No, book number 5, Get a Life. Get a Life, Chloe Round by Talia Hibbert. So, book number 4 is If I Never Met You by Mhairi McFarlane. And this is a story about a girl who gets out of this long-term relationship, and she works at this law firm with this other guy, or she works with her long-term relationship guy who she never quite got engaged to, and then he like suddenly gets like engaged and pregnant, and just it's just horrible. So she wants to get into a fake trope relationship, but this author did it so well. Usually I don't believe these ones, but she did it perfectly. Absolutely adored this one. Immediately, there was nothing I didn't like about this book. I gave it 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. And then the guy, he's not into long-term relationships, but like needs it to like polish him off to like the firm, I believe. Absolutely loved it. She hit the, like, usually I've seen this trope a ton, and I usually get bored with it or don't like it or don't believe it, and this one, she just hit the nail on the head. Absolutely adored it, loved it. So you're in for a fake dating trope, definitely check this one out. Book number 5, book number 4. So book number 4, If I Never Met You by Mhairi McFarlane. 3 is gonna go to The Giver of the Stars by Jojo Moyes. Absolutely adored this, and the romance is not the main part of this story, but I had to put this on the list because I loved the romance. It was like percolating forever throughout a huge portion of the book, 2/3 of the book. It was like percolating, and I loved the romance at the end. I love the romances that kind of catch you off guard. Just yeah. So this is a story about a young girl who like comes from a posher society in England, and she comes over meeting this guy who's like her perfect everything. He's handsome and gorgeous and wealthy and rich, and so she comes over. This is like the turn of the century Eleanor Roosevelt era. So you know, after the wars, but so wagons are still heavily based. So there's a library that's starting up in town, and it's a wagon-based library, and these women go out and try to help people become literate. And it's part of Eleanor Roosevelt's program. She joins it. Her husband doesn't like it. Her husband is kind of boring, horribly boring. Yeah, but yeah, there's a good romance I don't want to tell you about, don't want to give anything away, but it is in the background, and it's absolutely lovely, and loved it. And I loved The Giver of the Stars. Absolutely love this book. Check it out. This one, you can tell I absolutely love historical romance. So book number 2 is also a historical romance, and it is Next Year in Havana by Cleeton. This one just kind of takes the cake because there's 2 very good, evenly good romances. Absolutely loved them. So good, so good. So this is like so like suave and debonair romance. It's Cuban, and it's fancy, and it's good food and dancing, and it's so lovely. But it's about a girl who goes back to Havana to spread her grandma's ashes after Cuba has just opened again, and she gets to know her grandmother a lot more, and her grandmother's romance there, and who maybe you know meets some guys, and then also she gets to know her mom's like young adult romance. So it's kind of epically sweeping, and I listened to this on audiobook, and it's absolutely loving. And I believe this is the grandma right here, who I loved her story more, and her story with Pablo. And I think it's told by the girl who dubs Cable Girls, because I absolutely love Cable Girls, even though it's dubbed. So such a good actors and actresses on the audiobook as well. But yeah, my book number 2 is Next Year in Havana by Cleeton. Highly recommend for romance and just like these perfect guys in the background. It's just lovely because you get a double dose. You get a double dose of romance in that book. 9 I'm so excited for is You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogle. I think this one treats romance the best out of all the books. It is not my top of 2020 books, and there's like a romance book above it, but this was my favorite couple. This was my favorite romantic relationship, my favorite romantic story. It wasn't my favorite book overall, but just my favorite couple. This is a debut novel, which is ridiculous to be on a top number 1, and I absolutely adored it and loved it and cannot recommend it enough. But it is about a girl and a guy in a relationship who absolutely hate each other, and at first you're like, why am I reading this? These 2 are so annoying. And then yeah, it gets into the struggles of a relationship, and you'll absolutely love the book. And it's so good. And highly, highly, highly recommend. So those are all my top 10 romances this year. I was so excited for. Tell me what you read this year that you loved the most. Your top number 1 down below. And I will see you guys in the next Bookmas. The very last Bookmas, day number 12, is my top 10 books overall for the entire year. And I'll see you guys in the next one. See you guys next time. Bye.